when I meet men who have been in a long-term relationship, even after the divorce for a long, and they get out of it and they meet me and we're, connecting, then they're like, but I just got out of a long-term relationship. Like, what?
This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast. Society has certain expectations for what is supposed to happen when you're an adult. There is an idealistic vision that is ingrained in traditional households for what a grown-up life looks like. What is never spoken about is the gray area that lies between the black and white lines. Get married, buy a house, start a family, is what we're told a happy life is supposed to be. Very seldomly are we ever taught what to do when that vision doesn't materialize perfectly. How to handle the chaos and uncertainty when things don't go as planned. Our world is turned upside down, and we must figure out how to put the puzzle together. What once reminded us of peace and love now represents grief and pain. The strong make the best of a bad situation and carve a new path to redefine their life. I'm Kevin Donaldson here with Mike Failace, and welcome to the Suffering Podcast. If you're a fan of overcoming adversity and overcoming suffering, then we're for you, because that's what we do here, and that's the stories we enjoy highlighting. So do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, please comment, and now you can join. Ring the bell so you can get notified of all of our new content, and follow us on social media so you can find out what we're up to. On tonight's episode of the Suffering Podcast, we welcome Michele Traina to discuss the suffering of the divorce diaries. You are...
She's chuckling already.
I love it.
Well, you're the epitome of what this show's about. You make lemonade out of lemons. That's right.
We had so much fun before we even started tonight.
I hope Drew got it. Before we get it started into anything, let's give a big shout out to our marquee sponsor. That's Toyota of Hackensack. We don't trust anybody as police, but we do trust them. So go to toyotahackensack.com. Let them find you a car. So, Michele, each week we take a question from our audience. This week's question comes from Missy Forte. Underscore is in there somewhere. What's one thing you've done to make your life better?
Divorce.
This is a layup question.
This is a layup. Also have a kid. Really has changed. It actually made me want to go back to the road I started on before I was married.
Yeah, but I'm sure, and I want to get into this in the episode, entering into the dating world, it can be a hindrance in some ways.
Yeah. I have a half-open dress right now. So that's telling you how great the dating game is going.
We do that all for ratings. That's all we do is for ratings.
As Joe Gerbiani said, how you doing?
I'm doing great. No.
Mike, what do you think? What's one thing you've done to make your life better?
I'm gonna go with getting on this podcast.
Aww.
It really turned my life around. We went through therapy together and everything else, and therapy was working, but it wasn't until you started this podcast and asked me to come on that my life really turned around.
That's called a soundbite right there.
I love that.
That's called a soundbite. Thank you, brother. Thank you very much.
Aww.
A couple of weeks ago, you said that one of the greatest, the things you're grateful for is me. So I had to give
it. Yeah.
Well, you know what it was?
Me and Kevin spoon at night.
Yeah. So what it was right before recording. People don't know it. Mike and I are like we're like family members in a lot of different ways, in the good ways and the bad ways.
Right.
Where we will get on each other's nerves.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't think that everything's all sunshine and rainbows when the cameras go on.
Yeah.
We do get on each other's nerves from time to time. But now moving backwards, I know how to de-escalate myself a little bit better. I don't know. My family will speak a different story about that, but I do know how to de-escalate myself and just step back and say, "What are you doing, man? What?"
There's so many things that. Why are we even? Me and you get into what's it really all about?
I need to be de-escalated a lot.
Is it really going to change? Is it really going to change what tomorrow's going to bring? If me and you get into an argument today and we're not going to hold on to those feelings. Both of us.
You're men. Women hold on to them like they are our purse, and we just bring them and carry them around and show you.
It's one of the
and they buy different purses every week, and it's a different purse.
This is what else I have.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's one of the strongest arguments that you just put forth for being gay. Right there.
Why? Because gay men carry purses too, though.
So our friends out there, Mark and Matt,
Nick.
Nick. Well, that you're selling a product, and I'm starting to buy it a little. Nick, stop. Just stop right now, Mick.
But I don't think you answered the question, Kevin.
I did not answer the question.
You skirted it.
I did because there's a couple things that I've done. I've started to change my perspective on how I view trauma. We just went through on Instagram Live the Jocko Willing video, Good. And if you haven't watched it, you need to watch it.
I have to watch it.
Because it changes your mindset. Things are inevitably going to go wrong in your life.
Right.
That's a fact of life. You don't have enough money to pay the mortgage. Your kid needs braces and they want to get the new Air Force Ones at $120 a pop. Things are going to inevitably go wrong. A lot of it's financial, but not all financial. You need to step back, and I've learned how to take a deep breath and de-escalate myself. And really, my big thing here's the one thing I've done. I've been able to remove myself from a toxic situation, step back, rethink it, and then re-engage on that topic. Am I successful all the time? 100% no.
Right.
You re-engage on a clearer mindset.
Correct. Because you breathe.
Yeah.
You breathe.
So there's been many times when I've needed de-escalation when it comes to dating specifically and other areas. Like even before I came here, I said, oh my God, I had a meltdown with my daughter. I needed to be de-escalated, but then it turned into an escalating event. And then somehow we both she needed to be de-escalated. It was a whole thing because she has ADHD and it was the way I was reacting was escalating her. It was a whole thing. So
then it becomes compounding.
yeah, it's like
Don't we all have ADHD at some point?
I was just saying this off camera. We do have tendencies, but she has a diagnosis. I mean, thousands of dollars worth a diagnosis. And just like in case in point, you guys know I have my phone underneath me. And I just got a text message. Oh, thank God! I thought it was her coach.
The show, and that'll be the end of the Suffering Podcast right now. No.
She's got to go.
But so we spoke about this stuff, and those things inevitably will pop up in your life.
Yeah.
It's how you internalize them, how you deal with them. Do you hold grudge? I used to be a big grudge holder, and I still am to some extent, but I'm gotten better at it.
Are you Sicilian? I am.
No,
Okay.
I'm Black Irish.
He's Sicilian-ish.
Well, Sicilians, we hold those grudges.
So
for
do
years.
Irish.
Okay.
Yeah, it's part of our culture. So thank you so much for sending that question in, Missy Forte. And keep sending in your questions. We will try to get them on the air. So I've been watching a lot of stuff about you.
Yay.
And I'm guessing you're divorced because that's why we're calling this the Suffering of the Divorce Diaries.
15 times.
Believe it or I love it's the suffering. Well, there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. I can't even say it. But Divorce Diaries, like literally I've gotten a lot of people that ask me, so are you divorced? Why would I do?
No, it's a character.
It's a character. I just got married and I want to help those in need.
Yes. But you're also appealing to 50% of the population by talking about it.
Actually, my manager did this whole thing. It's more than half of America is willing to call it quits, right? We did this whole little pitch for people when we started the show. It's actually 67, I think, or 68%. And then I think if you get married again, it's like a higher percentage, like 70% that you're going to get divorced.
Well, you know what cracks me up? Do you ever see these people that get married, they get divorced, and then they remarry each other?
I've seen that. A guy did it 3 times.
I've seen it too.
One of the comedians said it great. He's like, it's like you go in the refrigerator and you pull the milk out and the milk is bad.
You put it back.
You don't put it back in and check on it 2 weeks later. If it's bad, it's bad.
I could never. I used to say I would never get married again because there's a small 0.01 chance I'd get divorced again, and I don't want to go through that. It was mostly because of my daughter and the custody stuff, and it was just ugly. And I was like, I don't want to go. I would never want to go through this again. But then I've been dating for 8 years, and breaking up is hard too. But it's like a mess.
Dating sucks more than being married sometimes.
It's just a cluster. I had high hopes when I first got divorced. I was like, I'm going to find the real love of my life now. And I was 33. And it just
you weren't jaded?
I wasn't, which is weird.
Yeah,
because
that's strange.
When I meet men who have been in a long-term relationship even after the divorce for a long, and they get out of it and they meet me and we're connecting, then they're like, but I just got out of a long-term relationship. Like, what? I was ready. Why can't you be ready?
Well, believe it or not, that this topic has been a topic that we've had trouble getting people in talking about because,
Really?
yeah, well, look at it this way. So there's usually kids involved.
Right.
And they don't want to.
And legal battles.
And there's legal
right.
battles, and they don't want to sit there and say anything negative about their
right,
kid's
yeah.
parent. So it's a very tough topic to speak about, openly anyway. You've sort of put it out there for the world to see, so I figure you're safe.
Yes, and thankfully, when I started to create it, I was starting right away to create. My ex-husband, he didn't know right away, but as I kept developing the show, he was fine with it. His girlfriend has watched the special, so it's great. And I don't really bash him like I do some of the men that I've dated or caricatures of the men I dated. And I don't want to say bash, like I'm not man bashing, although there are some.
Although now you're going to man bash.
There are some that deserve a good little roast. Okay. And but in all honesty, when I was recording the comedy special that we released on Amazon, I asked him, I said, hey, can I run some of these jokes I'm going to put in the special for Amazon? He's like, I don't care. It's comedy. And I was like, you just scored 3 points for yourself because
well, it's theater.
And that's the thing. Comedy is comedy.
Yes.
Political correctness has killed comedy right now.
Yeah.
Because there's certain things you can't talk about, certain things you can't touch.
But the best comedians throughout history have drawn from personal experience.
Absolutely.
We were talking before this about Chrissy Dio. I love him so much because he just goes for it.
Yeah.
What helped me connect with him. And also, like, he loves Latin women. I love Latin men. And I was like, there's a lot of...
Double date. There you go.
There you go. So what I was talking to somebody recently that I was seeing, and that we're not really seeing each other anymore, but we were friends before we started seeing if this would be something. He said to me, he's like, I don't like that I'm in the line of fire. And I was like, oh, that sucks. Like, you've known that I do this. And
Am I going to
journey.
become fodder?
Well, and he was becoming fodder. And so then I was like, I have to figure out how to juggle this, because most of the guys I dated that I poke fun at don't care, or I don't talk to them anymore.
But you know what? Like the flavor of the week now is Taylor Swift, because she's dating Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
Right.
And her songs are generally written about like her ex-boyfriends.
Taylor Swift a comedy. Lots of women female comics.
Everybody's like, what song is she going to write about him?
Yeah, well, Taylor Swift's a little different. If you're having that many problems with guys, I'm not so sure it's the guy's fault.
I don't think you really know my dating history. I am.
Well, why don't you give our audience a little bit about yourself? Where'd you grow up?
We didn't even start there yet. We just jumped right into it.
I know. Sorry, I tend to veer everybody off task. I grew up in Clifton. My family was born in I was sort of born and raised in Patterson for like a year, and my whole family was from Patterson. And then we just all dispersed. We dispersed.
That's what you do out of Patterson. You disperse.
You run. No, I love Patterson still, but my family.
Siblings?
I have multiple siblings, and
we'll just go with multiple.
We'll go with multiple. I'm the only girl, and then I have a very old school Italian Catholic family, loving, supportive. But we shout over each other. We shout through walls. We shout through levels of stairs. Levels of stairs. And I
got the taste of that. So my wife is Italian.
Yeah.
And when I first went to one of her family dinners or holiday dinners, I walked out of there going, Jesus Christ.
You can't hear yourself.
What is going on in my head right now? It's like two little people fighting,
Yeah. I have the joke in my set that my daughter has ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or what I like to call being Italian. Because, and we're bipolar. Because one minute everyone's happy to see you. The next minute your mother, why would you bring up Rosalie? I haven't talked to her in years. You went to her christening. She didn't call me by my actual name. She said, Frankie instead of Frank. Like, it's nuts. But very loving family. My parents always told me to kind of go for what I wanted to do in my career, because they kind of didn't, right? Their life was a little different. They had a family, and for whatever the reasons were for them, their circumstances were, they didn't have that support to go for their dream. Not that they didn't have the support, it was just different times. So me being an actor was a different, I wanted to pursue acting in college, and I did, and they supported that.
It's scary for them.
My dad wanted to be an actor, so he was all for it. He was like Kirk Douglas. Like, he lived through my eyes. He loved it. And my mom, though, was like, you have to have a fallback. And she's still kind of like that. She goes, so you really going to be doing this for your whole life?
We talked about that with Derek. If you have a plan B, you don't have a plan A.
Right. That's the easiest.
I heard that on your
easiest way to
episode.
failure.
So I also have a teaching certification, teacher degree. I have a principal certification. So throughout my journey, my ex-husband and I met, and I stopped acting full time, and I went into getting my master's in educational theater. I started a theater company for children with special needs. So I did veer off task when I met my ex-husband. And what I think my background, if this Italian Catholic family, my parents were like love at first sight, love, right? And they still were the day my dad died. I thought the first guy I was going to meet was going to be my husband. And that's how I looked at my relationship with my ex-husband. And it wasn't.
It's funny you say that, because in my opening, one of the things I talk about is we're raised a certain way. Every little kid is raised in a nuclear family. Like, this is what life is supposed to be. You're supposed to get married. You're supposed to have kids. You're supposed to get to college.
Two and a half kids and a white picket fence.
Exactly.
Retirement.
And then when that doesn't materialize, you're like, uh-oh.
What am I supposed to do now?
What do I do now?
And it's like, this is the story of me clunking into my road. That's what my life is. So like, I trip and fall and everybody's walking in a straight line. But I like that. I like tripping and falling and finding and discovering new things. And it took me to get married and go through those steps and realize, well, I don't know if this was the right person for me. And I felt horrible because you
invested time into that person.
I invested time in him. He invested time in me. I know that I felt like I let him down to an extent when I decided, like, I don't think this is right. And I stayed for a couple of years more to try to work through it. We had a kid, all of those things. When I look at my life now, when I left teaching full time a couple of years ago, and I teach still, but through college, and I teach on the side. So it's like I'm able to perform full time. And
all you're doing is, actually, Joe Rogan puts this perfectly, where he says, whatever you're doing is a means to get to where you want to be. It doesn't have to be how you're making money or how you're supporting yourself.
Yeah.
That's not what your goal. Your goal is to get to wherever it may be.
Yeah.
And
or is it filling a void?
I think it's support. Like, as much as I do like my day job, I'd rather do this full time.
Oh, right. I love teaching and helping kids through the arts, and I'm able to like act in the classroom with them. But when I decided to leave, I was like, this, no matter how much more money I can make as a principal and easier and teaching and all this other stuff, I am not going to be feeling like I'm fulfilling my personal legend unless I go back to acting full time. Have you ever read The Alchemist?
Of course.
Right. So that's how I felt. And I also feel like so many people give up because you're so close to obtaining that goal or that journey. And also, you know what? Part of me is like, well, would you want to go the other way? And I'm like, no.
Well, it's like this. So it's right here. And you can sort of put your fingertips on it, but you can't grab it yet. And if you just hang on just a second longer, you'll get it.
Compound pounding.
But you know what? I mean, if you're, I know you said you love teaching and all that, and that could be a lifestyle and could be very lucrative for you and everything else. But
making sure
we're always told when you do something you love doing,
you do it better.
You never work a day in your life.
You never work a day in your life. And also, I used to have some of those when I used to direct my students in musicals. And we would get done with the performance, and the families would. I remember this one musical I did on stage with it at this elementary school. My daughter was a part of it. It was called Polka Dots. It was based off of we did a whole collab with Broadway licensing because the vice president was one of the parents. It was it wasn't. It was the Beatles song. They had Beat Bugs on Netflix, and we did the musical. Broadway licensing worked with us in this school district I worked for. I'm telling you, people were crying in the audience. My ex-in-laws were there, like crying. My parents were there crying. My ex-husband was like, I was like, what? And they were like, one of the paraprofessionals came up to me and she's like, you are doing what God told you to do. And I was starting to cry. And I took a walk with my ex-husband and I said, I'm going back to acting full time. I'm going to cry here thinking about this. I wasn't expecting that today. I said, I'm going back to acting full time next year. And I need you to put our daughter on your health insurance because